Imagine waking up one morning to the sound of sirens. Within minutes, your streets are filled with terrorists. Families are slaughtered, children torn from their parents, grandmothers dragged into captivity. This was not a nightmare. This was October 7th, the darkest day for Israel since the Holocaust, a day the world must never forget. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, and the families of our beloved hostages still languishing in the dungeons of Gaza, this message is for you. Last year, I stood at this very podium and showed a map of Iran's axis of terror, an axis threatening the peace of the entire world, the stability of our region, and the very existence of my country. Israel. Iran was racing ahead with a massive nuclear weapons program and a vast ballistic missile arsenal. These were not only aimed at destroying Israel, they were designed to threaten the United States and blackmail nations everywhere. From Gaza, Hamas dispatched waves of terrorists. On October 7th, they stormed into Israel, committing acts of unspeakable savagery. From Lebanon, Hezbollah launched thousands of missiles at our cities. In Syria, the dictator Assad hosted Iranian forces, tightening a noose of death around our throats. And in Yemen, the Houthis fired ballistic missiles at Israel while choking global trade at the mouth of the Red Sea. What happened this past year? We struck back. We hammered the Houthis. We crushed most of Hamas's terror machine, taking out its leaders and much of its arsenal. We destroyed Assad's armaments in Syria. We deterred Iran's militias in Iraq. And most importantly, we devastated Iran's nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs. Half the leadership in Yemen gone. In Lebanon gone. In Syria gone. Iran's top commanders and nuclear scientists gone. Israel's 12-day war with Iran, Operation Rising Lion, will go down in the annals of military history. Our daring pilots neutralized Iran's missile defenses and took control of the skies. Together with American B-2 pilots, we bombed Iran's nuclear enrichment sites. President Trump and I promised to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. We delivered on that promise. We removed an existential threat to Israel and a mortal threat to the civilized world. But, ladies and gentlemen, we must remain vigilant. Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles must be eliminated, and then sanctions must be reinstated. We cannot allow Iran to rebuild. Israel rebounded from its darkest day to deliver one of the most stunning military comebacks in history. But the fight isn't over. The final remnants of Hamas are holed up in Gaza City. They vow to repeat the atrocities of October 7th again and again. That is why Israel must finish the job and finish it fast. Much of the world has already forgotten October 7th. But Israel remembers. On that day, Hamas carried out the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. 1,200 innocent people slaughtered, including over 40 Americans and citizens from dozens of nations. Men beheaded, women raped, babies burned alive in front of their parents. More than 250 hostages taken, including Holocaust survivors, grandmothers, and children. So far, 207 hostages have been brought home. 48 remain in Gaza, many of them starved, tortured, deprived of daylight. Their names, their faces, haunt us. Those hostages, I say, now live from the United Nations. We have not forgotten you, not for 1 second. The people of Israel are with you. We will not rest until we bring you home. And to the Hamas leaders holding them, I say, lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages. All of them. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down. Some ask, what does this have to do with me? The answer, everything. Our enemies are your enemies. Pop quiz, who shouts death to America? Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. All of the above, who has murdered Americans and Europeans in cold blood. All of the above, our enemies hate all of us equally. They want to drag the modern world back into an age of violence and fanaticism. Many of you feel this surge of radical Islamism in your own societies. Deep down, you know Israel is fighting your fight, behind closed doors. Many leaders privately thank us for our intelligence, which has prevented countless terrorist attacks in their capitals. General George Keegan, former head of US Air Force Intelligence, once said, if the United States had to gather on its own the intelligence that Israel provides, it would need 5 CIAs. Yet, regrettably, many leaders publicly condemn us while privately benefiting from our sacrifices. They buckled under pressure. Biased media, radical Islamist constituencies, and anti-Semitic mobs. As we fight terrorists who murdered your citizens, you fight us. You embargo us. You wage lawfare against us. This is not an indictment of Israel. It's an indictment of weak leaders who appease evil rather than support the nation whose soldiers guard you from the barbarians at the gate, take the false charge of genocide. Colonel John Spencer, the world's leading expert on urban warfare, says Israel uses more measures to minimize civilian casualties than any military in history. In Gaza, the ratio of civilian to combatant casualties is lower than in NATO's wars in Afghanistan or Iraq. For weeks we dropped millions of leaflets, sent millions of texts, made countless phone calls urging civilians to leave Gaza City. Hamas, by contrast, hides in mosques, schools, hospitals, apartment buildings, and forces civilians at gunpoint to stay. For Israel, every civilian casualty is a tragedy. For Hamas, it's a strategy, and while we're accused of starving Gaza, Israel has delivered over 2 million tons of food and aid 1 ton per person, nearly 3,000 calories per day. If people go hungry, it's because Hamas is stealing it, hoarding it, selling it to fund its war machine. Even the UN admits it. These lies of genocide and starvation are nothing new. They're the old blood libels dressed up for modern times. Anti-Semitism does not die. It returns, recycled, over and over, and these lies have consequences. Jews assaulted in Canada, Australia, Britain, France. An elderly Holocaust survivor burned to death in Colorado. A young Israeli couple gunned down outside the Holocaust Museum in Washington. Anti-Semitism is rising, and instead of fighting it, some governments reward it by recognizing a Palestinian state days after Hamas's atrocities celebrated by nearly 90% of Palestinians. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment an attack against America proportionate to October 7th. 40,000 Americans massacred, 10,000 taken hostage. Do you think America would leave that regime standing? Of course not. It would wipe it out. That is precisely what Israel is doing in Gaza. We are wiping out the terror regime of Hamas to ensure the savagery never threatens Israel again. You cannot appease your way out of jihad. You cannot escape the Islamist storm by sacrificing Israel. To overcome that storm, you must stand with Israel. As the prophets of Israel foretold, you have turned good into evil and evil into good. It's time to turn back. Israel fights not only for its own survival, but for the future of the civilized world. Stand with us, because our fight is your fight, our victory is your safety, and together, we can defeat this darkness once and for all.